Yes! What is up, everyone? And after spending some time on TikTok...
Stop crying, you baby. You acted the same way when Cristiano Ronaldo left. Yeah, don't remember that. We're never gonna win anything ever again!
And Twitch...
Though Neymar and Mbappe will pinch in and maybe sniff. I don't know why I'm sniffing glue.
And doing Coach Jimmy and the Soccer Minute on Twitter and Instagram.
And you soccer gods.
French people hate Robert Lewandowski. I thought to myself, it, let's do another preview. And so here we are back on the YouTubes to preview the most popular league in the world, the Premier League. And first up is, well, I'm gonna draw names out of this hat that go with these goggles. I should have put the goggles on first. Amazing! And the first one is Brighton. They're still in the top flight? Hold on a second. It says here they finished in 15th. That's how non-memorable they were last season under new manager Graham Potter. I do remember them, however. They were struggling to score goals, unless they hurt Arsenal's goalkeeper Bernd Leno. Do you remember that? When Neil Maupay hurt Leno, and then he went on to score the game winner in the 94th minute? That was probably pretty cool for Brighton, not so much for Arsenal, though Emi Martinez seemed to really take advantage of that. Anyway, Maupay notched 10 goals last season, which is pretty respectable, but the next highest goal scorers on the squad were Leandro Trossard and Aaron Connolly, who had 5 and 4 goals respectively, which is not as respectable. And with the only attacking option being brought in so far is 32-year-old Adam Lallana, who we could argue isn't the spry youngster that he once was. I'm not sure how much Brighton are going to improve on the 39 goals they scored in 38 games last season, so I think they're going to get relegated, which will then probably force them to sell their best asset, stud center back Lewis Dunk, who I'm actually surprised hasn't moved to a top 6 club yet. And then Brighton will have a hard time getting back up because that's usually what happens. So I'm gonna say 18th. And sorry, Brighton supporters, I clearly have no faith, but I didn't have any faith in Sheffield United last season either, and they finished in 9th, if that makes you feel any better. Probably not. And up next we got Leicester City, who have to be incredibly disappointed after being in the top 4 for 10 months before having to settle in 5th after losing to Spurs 3-0 with 2 matches to go, and then with their fate in their own hands, losing to Manchester United 2-0 at home on the last day of the season. So much for Brendan Rodgers' magic teeth that he picked up during his time in Liverpool actually being magic. Clearly, he got out magic teeth this season by Jurgen Klopp and Bobby Firmino. Am I right? Because they've got the best chompers in the game? No, I'm not. Nobody's laughing. Anyway, because I thought Leicester overachieved last season, and I say this with nothing but love and admiration for their starting 11 in particular, which I believe is very, very strong, including Wilfred Ndidi, who I think will be their most important player this upcoming season. If he's out, or any of their starters go down with an injury, they seem to struggle a lot. And that became very apparent in the second half of the season, when they won only 4 out of their last 17 games. And now with them in the Europa League next season too, I just feel like they're gonna be too spread thin to match getting 5th place again. Plus, Ben Chilwell is gone, Jamie Vardy's a year older, and they've made no big signings in the transfer window. I'm feeling a 9th place finish this season. And now who do we got? Oh, shite! Piss off, mate. It's my favorite squad in the Prem. Is that the right accent? Probably not. It's Newcastle United. And listen, last season, we did what we had to do with a manager that specializes in being bang average. And guess what? We were bang average, baby. So I expect it's going to be more of the f***ing same because Ashley still owns the team. But in fairness to him, if it's okay for me to say that because I don't really like the guy, he has been trying to sell the club, but that hasn't worked out, which if these new potential owners have human rights violations on their hands, I don't want them owning the club anyway. But damn, the thought of an injection of some new money into the team just makes me dream. We could have Mauricio Pochettino as the manager, and Mbappe and Messi and Haaland coming in, and instead we have Steve Bruce managing new transfers, Jeff Hendrick and Ryan Fraser. Not as cool. However, with the signing of Bournemouth's Callum Wilson, who's a proven Premier League goal scorer on a not great team, which makes him a great fit for the Toon, let's be honest. And hopefully, please for the love of God, a motivator for Joe Linton to do more after he only scored 2 goals last season as a number 9, which is 1 less than Brighton center back Lewis Dunk, after we paid $40 million for the guy then I'll be happy. But I'll be happier if we can continue to keep our hands on Alain Saint-Maximin, who, when healthy, is easily our best player, which means we will probably lose him in January to someone who's contending for the top 4. But even with him in the team, we still don't have enough to do anything more than to sit comfortably in the middle of the table, which I guess I'm willing to accept until new owners finally arrive. 11th. And now it's time to take a deep dive into the helmet that Petr Cech wishes he had, and we're gonna pull out Leeds United! After 16 years away, they are finally back in the top flight with the help of their mercurial genius of a manager, Marcelo Bielsa, after winning the championship by 10 points last season. And I'd like to state that I think that the championship is the hardest league in the world to win. And actually, I would throw MLS into this conversation as well, just given how grueling these competitions are in their own unique ways. I do believe that Bielsa will have his guys incredibly prepared and ready to compete right from the first game of the season, which is against the defending champions Liverpool, so I guess we're gonna find out right away how legit they are. And with their smart buys so far in the transfer window, including Spanish international Rodrigo, who, even though he might not finish everything in the box, he does get himself in great spots to score, and you can't always teach that. And 24-year-old Freiburg center back Robin Koch, or at least that's how I think you say it. I think they've added some very good players to the squad, and I don't believe they're done yet. They're still in the running to grab Barcelona's Rafinha, who was on loan to Celta last season, and another Rodrigo de Paul from Udinese, who both would bolster Leeds' midfield. So anyway, you add these types of quality players in with a well-disciplined and organized team, and you're gonna get results under a manager like Bielsa. So I believe they're gonna stay up, and I don't think it's gonna be a struggle, but they're not really gonna kick on and challenge for a European spot for another season or two, so I'll say 12th. And okay, let's keep this going. And I feel like I'm finding the flow here. And it's a squad that you guys think that I secretly love. Arsenal. And first off, I'll admit it, I do talk about Arsenal a lot, but that's only because every other person I know in the States is an Arsenal supporter, and I love to see them suffer like I suffer with Newcastle, minus the false hope, because I know how good my team is, and that's not very good. I don't live in a dream world like Arsenal fans do, who think they're going to be invincible every season because they did it once 16 years ago. With this said, relatively new manager Mikel Arteta is giving them something to hope about, so I get where this false hope might come from. He took over a dumpster fire of a situation from Unai Emery, which included Granit Xhaka getting stripped of his captaincy after a clash with the supporters. Way to clap those guys off, Granit. And David Luiz giving out a Premier League record 5 penalties last season. And yet, despite all of this, he's already won 2 trophies since he's been in charge. And you can sense that has been a big boost in confidence to the players who might have considered leaving, like their MVP, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. But I'm not sure if this team is completely there just yet. Yes, they've got 2 new center backs in Saliba and Gabriel in the squad, but those 2 only have league experience, so it could take them a bit to adjust. However, given Arteta's ability to get the team shape right to win the 2 trophies I mentioned before, I'm actually less worried about the defense of Arsenal, which is kind of strange to say out loud, and more concerned for their midfields. And that's because Xhaka's still in it, Torreira is out, Guendouzi is what? In? Out? I don't know, and Mesut of course is just chilling. They still seem to be in flux or still very young, i.e. Saka, Willock, and Martinelli, in a very important part of the field, and without making moves yet for Thomas Partey or Houssam Aouar, it's an area of a lot of promise, but also concern. So I'm gonna say 6th. All right, who is next? You gotta be kidding me. It's Arsenal's biggest rivals, Spurs. Okay, so let's look at this somewhat critically. Even though Spurs secured 6th and a spot in Europe on the last day of the season, if you look at the table after Jose Mourinho got hired as manager, he would have finished in 4th. And he did that with the loss of the very talented but disinterested at this point in his career Christian Eriksen to Inter Milan, and significant injuries to big-time players like Heung-min Son, Dele Alli, Hugo Lloris, and Harry Kane, which, whether you love Mourinho or you hate him, is an excellent achievement for a manager that many think is past it. Now, I will admit that I'm on the fence about Mourinho and whether his skills have faded as manager, but if you've watched the Amazon documentary at all around the team, it's clear that he still has some of that magic and charisma left, so I wouldn't put it past him to get this team to do even more this upcoming season. But with the continued power and talent of both Liverpool and Manchester City, the eye-opening transfer window by Chelsea, and the quiet confidence that continues to build at Manchester United, assuming they can sort out that center-back situation and Mason Greenwood breaking rules with the national team, I like Spurs to do one better than last season by finishing in 5th. Which will suck, of course, to miss out on the Champions League, but it won't suck to finish above Arsenal for the 5th consecutive season. And we're going to save this one for the end. Okay, now though, this one I just picked, they used to be known as Fulham, because of all the Americans they had in the team, and most likely for the weirdest spot for a Michael Jackson statue in the world. And guess what? They still have an American in their team, Tim Ream, but thankfully for a lot of reasons, the MJ statue is gone from Craven Cottage. Anyway, after finishing 4th in the championship to get into the playoff and then taking advantage of an error by Brentford's goalkeeper in a game of his life, 2-goal performance by their left back Joe Bryan in the final to decide who was going up, Fulham find themselves back in the top flight with an owner that likes to spend the cheddar. Now it's just a matter if they can spend that money smartly, which didn't happen last time, even though he invested 100 million euro, pounds, dollars, I don't know, into the squad as they went straight back down. In the season that I'm referencing, they scored 34 goals and gave up 81 for a minus 47 goal difference. So if they want to stay up this time around, they absolutely have to get better on both sides of the ball, which I think they'll do with Scott Parker firmly in charge. But do they have enough quality to really do it? Is good organization, a lot of the same players that they had before when they got relegated, but now they have a little bit more experience, and Alexander Mitrovic up top, who has a very good scoring record for the club. Is that enough? Maybe? Possibly? I'm going to say barely. 17th. All right, let's see what's happening here. And just as a fun fact, it is 3,000 degrees in here. Southampton, who after getting thumped by Leicester 9-0 on match day 10 last season, I thought it was going to be over for the club. They were going to get relegated and their German manager Ralph Husenhuddle was going to get fired. But they turned it around and they did what they do best, and that's finishing right in the middle of the table. Way to go, guys. And now with some aging players being let go, that has freed them up to sign some quality, like center backs Mohamed Salisu from Real Valladolid and Kyle Walker-Peters from Spurs, which should make their defense a lot more solid. Plus, they got Danny Ings still in the squad, who quietly finished 1 goal behind Jamie Vardy for the Golden Boot last season, despite not taking any penalties, which makes it even more impressive for me. Which means, are you ready for this? They're going to finish in the middle of the table like always, 10th. And up next here in the sauna, we got Burnley. And all I have to say is, how the hell does their manager Sean Dyche do it season after season? He doesn't have the resources of most other clubs, but yet he's always there, getting his club to punch above their weight for the 5th consecutive year, as he finished in 10th last season, and he did it with 15 clean sheets, the same number as Liverpool. But if they lose center back James Tarkowski to West Ham, as is being rumored, also, as an aside, Tarkowski is definitely better than Eric Dyer, so I don't know why Tarkowski's not in the England squad and Dyer is. I just don't know why that is. Anyway, if he leaves, I think Burnley will fall apart. And I say this because they've made no significant signings in the transfer window, and it doesn't look like they're going to either, which must drive Sean Dyche out of his goddamn mind, as he has to conjure up yet another miracle for them to have another successful season. So even though I'm a big fan of the hard work and discipline of the manager and the team overall and the undeniable talent of their academy product, 20-year-old Dwight McNeil, who I think has a bright future, I think it's going to be a struggle even if they don't lose Tarkowski. 15th. Okay, how many more teams do we still have 11 teams left? Hot damn, dude. I feel like I've been talking forever while sitting in front of the sun. Anyway, it's Everton, yay! Who after ending the season in 12th, which is their worst finish since owner Farhad Mashiri took over the team in 2016, the club has not slowed down on their ambition, and I respect it. First, the owner skipped all of the experimental coaches or ones with potential and went for the biggest name available in Carlo Ancelotti. And even though Ancelotti didn't crush it, you could see his quality and the difference he was making in the team. And then they got to work in the transfer window. First, they finally replaced Idrissa Gueye. I'm not sure how long that took, but it took a while, and he was so good for them, if you remember. But they picked up Doucouré from relegated Watford, which I believe is a very good signing. And then they nabbed Allan, who played for Ancelotti at Napoli, which again is another great signing. And then they said, what the hell? Let's go get James Rodriguez too. He's as cute as a button, who played for Ancelotti at Madrid and Bayern. And this now gives the Toffees, at least on paper, one of the best midfields in the league. And that should set up Richarlison to have a career year. But unfortunately, it still won't be enough to crack the top 6. But they're inching closer. 7th. And hello, who we got here? It's West Brom, innit? How was that? I thought it was pretty good. Anyway, the team that finished 10 points behind Leeds in the championship is back in the top flight, and they did it in real style. only losing 7 games all season, which is due in part to a solid defense, the 3rd best in the second division, and the 2nd best attack, which even though it didn't boast anyone in the top 10 in scoring, it did boast one of last season's revelations, Mateus Pereira, who, while on loan from Sporting Clube de Portugal, notched 8 goals and 20 assists. Those are Kevin De Bruyne type numbers, which then forced West Brom's hand to make his stay permanent, so they smartly inked him to a 4-year deal. However, and speaking of seconds, because I said the word second about 3,000 times a little bit earlier, this is manager Slaven Bilic's 2nd season in charge, and if you look at his managerial history of the 5 most recent clubs he's coached, his 2nd season always seems to have a drop-off from the 1st. And given that they haven't done much in the transfer window outside of making some loan moves permanent, I just don't know. And I say this as a Bilic fan, but I just don't think he's got the squad to compete consistently. 19th. All right, what do we have here? Glory, glory, Man United. Glory, glory, Man United.
Not quite my tempo.
So I don't know if you know this or not, but United won the treble last season. Yes, the treble of ending up in 3 semifinals where they opted to start David De Gea over Sergio Romero in all 3, and they lost all 3 of them. De Gea is quietly pulling a Kepa over there by telling his manager who is playing and who is not. Now, with that being said, De Gea has proven to be and still is a much, much, much better goalkeeper than Kepa. But yeah, that's a total power move. He's flexing all over Romero right there. Anyway, I got sidetracked, as I do. It's part of my charm. So let's talk about United's chances of finishing 3rd or better this season. Their captain was recently in jail in Greece, making bad decisions with that big giant head of his. You'd like to think he's got more brain cells than the rest of us, and that wouldn't happen, but you'd be wrong. Their most talented player, Paul Pogba, has COVID. Their rising superstar, Marcus Rashford, is hurt. And I mention all of these things that should get resolved fairly soon, but it speaks to an issue that United had a lot last season. Lots of significant injuries to key players, so they can never establish a rhythm with a consistent starting 11. When healthy, these guys are very, very good. And now with the addition of Donny van der Beek, who will, with his Ajax background, definitely elevate the players around him with his ability. Though I am concerned, if you'll allow me another tangent, about who sits in the hole in front of the back 4, because Van der Beek and Pogba aren't going to do it since it's not their natural position. And that back 4, especially the center backs, is probably their weakest link. But if they add a generational talent in Jadon Sancho and a badass left back in Sergio Reguilon, they will, without a doubt, finish in the top 4. But with United, that seems to be too many big ifs. If their board will actually overpay a little bit to bring in top players, probably unlikely. And if the players can stay healthy, also unlikely. So I feel like that could be too big of an ask for this club and these players and this manager. So I'm going to say 4th. But I'll also say that for the first time in a while, if I was a United supporter, I would be truly hopeful for the future. I really feel like they're putting together a world-class squad. No joke, I'm saying that with a straight face. No, I don't know why you guys are laughing. I mean it. And up next, it's Aston Villa, who after spending heavily after getting promoted last summer, they had to be disappointed to need goal line technology not to work and a dramatic final day to survive relegation. So the response to all of that is, don't really spend it all this summer. That's one way to do it, I guess, or maybe that's because they're waiting to sell their best player, Jack Grealish, for $70 million, and then they could use those funds to get more players. But unfortunately for the villains, no one is biting on that price tag for Grealish. And then they have goalkeeping issues since Pepe Reina's loan is over, and Tom Heaton is hurt for the next month or so. And last year's major recruit, Wesley, was starting to look sharper in front of goal, but he suffered a significant knee injury, and yeah, I don't know. There's just nothing pointing towards Villa barely surviving again this season. In fact, I don't think they will, and even though putting them in 20th feels a bit harsh, I do believe they're going to get relegated. And now we're moving from the villains to the Hammers. Get in, West Ham. And I'm displaying some excitement for these guys, not only because they're one of my good pal Spencer Owen's favorite club, but because I kind of want to see David Moyes do well, just so we can give the haters a big middle finger. For me, he's a solid manager, and yes, maybe a bit uninspiring and overly pragmatic with his tactics, but I'm pulling for him. And with the emergence of Declan Rice as one of the better up-and-coming midfielders in the league, and the late season surge of Mikel Antonio, who ended up scoring 10 goals last season to lead the team, and the possibility of getting or stealing James Tarkowski from Burnley, a David Moyes team is gonna do what a David Moyes team does, and that's grind out results, which won't be pretty, but in West Ham's case, it will be effective. 16th. And now, I feel like I'm opening an award here. We've got the Wolves of Wolverhampton, who were so close to getting into Europe last season until a loss on the final day to Chelsea, plus an FA Cup win for Arsenal, ended any hope of that happening, and that's heartbreaking. So So I just naturally assumed they would be looking to make some moves in the transfer window, and instead, they spent 35 million pounds, euros, pieces of cheddar, or whatever on 18-year-old Fabio Silva, who has a whopping 3 senior goals to his name. And yes, if you play Football Manager, you know that Fabio Silva develops into an absolute beast, and I'm sure that he will in real life too. I just assumed that Wolves would also be looking for players that could help them now, not in 5 years, especially because Arsenal are winning trophies on the regular now, and I can't believe that sentence came out of my mouth. Spurs are signing Wolves as players, and Everton are making big moves as well, so as much as I appreciate Wolves' manager Nuno Espirito Santo sticking with his guys, and the fact that they don't have European competition to worry about this season, I'm just not sure how much they're going to move the needle. I'll say 8th. Nope, not yet. I'm saving my top 3 for last. Get off my back. So if you want to fast forward because you don't want to hear whoever comes next, Crystal Palace, then go ahead and do it. But if you do want to stick around, I'll make this one quick because there's not much to talk about with Palace. They're consistently bang average, finishing 15th, 14th, 11th, 12th, and 14th in their last 5 seasons. They got a clever old man as manager in Roy Hodgson, who's a specialist in not getting relegated. And they still have Wilfried Zaha on their side, you know, the guy that everyone expects to leave every single transfer window but never ends up doing so. Anyway, I expect more of the same from them. They're going to be tough to play against as always. They're going to do what they need to do to survive. And then next season, I'm going to write the same exact preview because they will be in the same exact situation. However, I do love the $20 million that they spent on England U21 Eberici Eze from QPR. The ex-Arsenal youth product plays primarily as a number 10, but he can also do the job on the left-hand side. He scored 14 goals and had 8 assists in the championship last season, and he played in all 46 games, which really speaks to his fitness, his productivity, and his mentality. So I believe the kid is ready to make the jump, so I'm excited to see how he does. As for where the club is going to finish overall, I'll say 14th. And the last club before we get to the final 3, it's Sheffield United. Yes, the team I missed out on the most last season. I picked them to get dead last, and they finished comfortably in 9th after hanging around in 5th for a few weeks too during this past season. So there is absolutely no way I'm going against manager Chris Wilder and his players this time around. And yes, I know you could say, but Dean Henderson went back to Manchester United and he was their best player. Or you could say, oh, there's no way they can do it again. They got lucky. Listen, there was no luck involved here. They did their homework, they were prepared, and they made the plays that needed to be made. And there's no reason to suggest that something similar won't happen again this season. My only fear is that other teams will be better prepared for them too, so I'll say 13th. Here we go. Let's get to our final 3 clubs, and I'm not going to pick one out of the hat. I'm just going to go with the one that's been spending the most in this transfer window, and that's Chelsea Football Club. Despite their transfer ban and Kepa being one of the worst goalkeepers, statistically speaking, in the Premier League last season, Super Frank Lampard got his team to outperform the expectations as they finished in 4th, were an FA Cup finalist, and lost to eventual champions Bayern Munich in the Champions League, which is really nothing to be ashamed about since Bayern were monsters this past season, specifically in this competition. So what did they do in the transfer window now that the ban is over, you might ask? Well, it looks like they took an injection of steroids to bolster the squad in almost every area. Timo Werner, Kai Havertz and Hakim Ziyech in the attack, Ben Chilwell at left back, Thiago Silva and Malang Sarr in the middle. It feels like they're cheating when they're bringing this much talent in for one transfer window. But I still have some concerns. Not only with the Kepa situation in goal, who in fairness to him, wasn't the only reason why the Blues conceded 56 goals in all competitions, their worst return from a defensive perspective since 1996, but also with their midfield. As you know, I love N'Golo Kante. The guy is a winner, he's team first, and he's got a great smile. But a back four is only as good as that holding midfielder in front of them since he blocks important passing lanes, etc. But he was hurt for some parts of last season, and he doesn't play particularly well with Jorginho, so I wonder what Super Frank does. With all that attacking talent, they need a few guys that think defense first, and the other options are Jorginho, who, okay, he'll do the work, but is it in his heart? I don't know. Kovacic, yeah, he's probably not. He's more box to box. Mason Mount, probably not. He's Frank's son, he can do whatever he wants. So I believe that N'Golo Kante is an important piece of their puzzle if they want to have success. Also, and we've seen it before, despite all of this talent, it's not easy to get so many new players on the same page quickly. So as much as I love these moves and how dangerous Chelsea have immediately become, I think next season is when we're going to see this team being consistently good every single week. For now, they're gonna have to settle for third. So now it's time to decide who I think is gonna win the title and who is not, which means I'm coupling Liverpool and Manchester City together for the last hit. And first off, I just want to say another congratulations to Liverpool for winning their first league title in 30 years and doing it in real style. It was very impressive. However, to quote legendary rapper Nas on his classic remix, "Oh, you went platinum? Yeah, that's nice. Now let me see you do the same thing twice." And I bring this up because one, I love Nas, and two, because Liverpool didn't look like the Liverpool we know in the second half of the season. And yes, I know the crazy ass pandemic hit and halted everything, but that impacted everyone else too, so I don't think that can be used as a proper excuse. So maybe it's Klopp's high intensity style finally catching up to them after they pushed so hard over these last few seasons. And we saw something similar happen in Dortmund after a few seasons as well. So maybe there's a correlation that we could maybe say, yeah. Or maybe it's because they were ahead by so many points and they just lost their edge. Or maybe it's everything combined. Either way, whatever it was, I think it's still hanging around because they didn't look sharp in the Community Shield against Arsenal, and they didn't make any significant signings until Thiago finally comes in, if he comes in. But even then, he feels like a luxury buy because Wijnaldum was good enough for them, obviously, and Naby Keita should be healthy and should feature more this season too, so I don't know. Whereas with Manchester City, they skirted any serious punishment for breaking financial fair play rules, so a hat tip to their lawyers, and they made some signings that make them better. Most notably with Nathan Ake and eventually with Koulibaly, which I think will get done, and that will be a significant improvement in an area that needed some serious attention. And that includes Aymeric Laporte, who I thought was not good against Lyon in the Champions League, and ultimately, his mistakes cost them that result, as did, in fairness to Laporte, Pep's conservative tactics, which is a shame because City really do have a terrific squad that Messi is gonna love playing with next season. So honestly, I'm torn. The crown weighs heavy on your head when you have to figure out a way to muster the strength to repeat the same heroic feat as the year before to maintain your status as champion. That's Liverpool's issue. Whereas with City, they have that newfound purpose and hunger that only comes when you have someone to chase as opposed to being the one that is being chased. So I think they're gonna be up for it. Pep is gonna have them focused like never before. But I have so much respect and admiration for Jurgen Klopp and his team. I don't want to casually dismiss that they won't be up for it as well when they are littered with top professionals on and off the field. But I think City's gonna win. No, I'm sorry, I changed my mind. I think Liverpool are gonna do it. But can I be trusted at all when I missed picking the right champion last season when I said City were gonna win and Liverpool were gonna get second, and then the opposite happened? Maybe, I don't know, so maybe, just maybe, that's what Liverpool fans want from me again. Maybe they want me to pick them to get second because that reverse jinx will guarantee them getting first, and they're gonna be happy if I do that. And then if I pick City to win and they do it, I'll look like a genius and that'll make me happy, and everybody wins. I think. What kind of ass backwards logic is this? I'm losing my goddamn mind and it's 5,000 degrees in here. But that's how close this race is between these two teams. I'm gonna go with the team that has something to gain as opposed to something to lose. So I'm gonna pick City to get first and Liverpool to get second. Now what are you thinking? Let me know your picks for the top 4 and bottom 3 in the comments below. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll see you for the next preview because I'm gonna go take like 15 showers. I'm out of here. Later.